Hi guys, welcome to Decoupled with Cheryl. So today's random musings day. Today's the day where I get to be me. Well, it's not like I'm not ever me, but I get to be vulnerable me today. I've had quite the week, and some highs, some lows, but the most drastic thing that happened to me. And yes, some of you would say I'm being a little melodramatic with this, but it's yeah, definitely the most drastic thing that happened to me this week is my son and I had a huge um, fallout, if I would call it that. I mean, he's only 11, but a couple of people have told me that I talk to him like he's really grown, and I like to do that because I feel like it encourages better communication. But yeah, that communication sort of went aground sometime during this week because I had to scold him, like really, really scold and yell at him for something he did, which I had repeatedly corrected him on, and he just didn't get it, and he did it again. So I was livid, and he went to sleep that night with that look on his face, the scowl, like he was really angry. I could tell. And then he woke up the next day and literally avoided me. Like he didn't even calm down for devotion. Like my son would typically wake up and then come to my room and knock on my door, and then we would, you know, say hi and then take a little nap again, and then we pray, and then he goes to start his day. But yeah, he avoided me. I had to wake up at some point and go and check up on him, and I realized that he was pretty much done with his morning routine, all without me. Oh my god. Oh yeah, I was still mad because I'm like, dude, I corrected you for something that is good for you, and you're angry at me, like you are this angry at me. And so yeah, I wasn't keeping malice. I was being the grown up, but I just sort of gave him a space, and he really, really made sure to avoid me the whole day. So yeah, I was hurt and I was torn. So I'm there thinking, okay, did I yell at him like too loud? Was I too difficult? Did I use any harsh words? Well, that's a struggle. I try not to do that. But I ensured that I didn't use any harsh words, but I really, really yelled at him. So I was torn between, oh my God, should I do that again, or should I find a different way to communicate with him? Now, these are conversations that I'm constantly having, not just with myself, but with my son. Because, yes, as much as he avoided me the whole day, we kind of talked about it the next day and we made up. Again, I'm trying to build that communication between us that allows him to talk to me as much as possible, no matter how angry he was. So this was the first time he really did that. So I felt it, like I really, really felt it. And it took me back to all those conversations that I'm having, and I'm asking, oh my God, can I do this by myself? At one point, is he really just going to ignore me completely? I mean, we've been through all the phases. Like, we've been through the spanking phase, we've been through the negotiation phase. We literally went through a phase where I had him on lockup. Oh my God, it sounds funny, but it's not funny. I literally had him on lockup like for 3 days, right? So he would have breakfast, had take do his classes, online classes, of course. It happened during the COVID pandemic, and then he would do his classes, and then after that he goes right back into a room, like not even his room, because of course in his room he had like lots of things that would occupy. I literally put him in some room that we weren't using. It was clean, of course, please, none of that torture cell type room, but it was clean, and then I gave him a couple of books to read, and that was it. I would lock him up until it's time for lunch, and he would come down and have lunch and go back. And we went through that whole cycle for 3 days. So yes, I've been through it. Trust me. I've tried pretty much everything there is to try. So I have those conversations with myself where I'm thinking, what could I possibly do better, or is it just because it's only me? You know, random musings, like I said. So that was the worst part of my week for me. I'm glad that we're able to talk about it today after And then we prayed about it too and just made sure that, okay, look, maybe we need to involve a third party. And oh my goodness, it's crazy. Sometimes I swear I don't even know what to do with him. And this is funny that I'm coming out and I'm saying this today because it's so important for us single parents who are out there listening to this. It's so important for us to know that we can't possibly be superhuman all the time. There are times when we would just throw our hands up and just be like, oh, I'm done. Like, I don't know what to do because the things that you try don't always work out when it comes to raising your kids. So it's a bit of a struggle. And I mean, this is not even like a single parent domain specifically, because even where you have a mother and a father, like a whole family unit, sometimes they just don't know what to do with the kids. I'm trying to remember if my parents went through that phase with me. Nah, I was a good kid most of the time. I had a loud mouth, but I was a good kid. you know. So yeah, there are times when we would go through this phase, and it's important to know that we're allowed to have our moments of weakness. Um, it's always easier, of course, when it's not just one parent handling the children, when you have like a unit handling it, or even sometimes where you have a good relationship amongst the co-parents, it's easier. But when it's just you, yeah, there will be days like this. Luckily, it didn't exceed that one day, but I promise you, the makeup has been going on for like 2, 3 days after. Because my son will come and sit down and try and now catch up for all the lost talk that he didn't talk the day before. And yeah, it's good. It's good. So, some really interesting things happened. Of course, I'm not just a podcaster, but I run a business as well. So, I kind of launched a new arm of my business, so that was good. But then back to another downer during the week is sometimes you're going through life and you're dealing with all there is to deal with and you're trying to be happy, and then someone just literally throws you a wrecking ball like right in your face. Probably not intentionally, they don't mean to damage you, but then we have all these triggers as single parents sometimes that are reminders of what things could have been like if we weren't dealing with like bad breakups or losing a spouse and stuff like that. Yeah, those of you who decided to go into it, I don't know if you have moments like this, but here is me just being vulnerable and saying, like, man, I'm dealing with this as well. So here's what happened. As most of you know, I've been on this walk for a number of years now, and so I have been through it really, especially when it comes to meeting people that you really like and you like to have some sort of a relationship develop. But then something happens and it's like, yeah, this is still not going to work. And what happened to me this week was more of a reminder that, look, what happens, you need to change your circles or something, because it turns out that I ended up meeting someone and it turned out that he ended up being married. Well done to all of you who decide to knowingly go into these things by yourself with your eyes open, maybe not so much, maybe like you're squinting because you don't want to really see what the implications are. But man, how you do it, I don't know. But the minute I see that kind of situation, I'm like in reverse, like times five. I start to go back really, really quickly. Unfortunately for me, I had been friends with this particular fellow for quite some time. Never really started out like that, but I'm not going to go into how we met, or rather, how we got talking, because we only met recently for the first time after the friendship had built over a while. And voila, he is married. Ding, 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 ding. So I'm like, yeah, not going to happen. And then I'm taking off. And then while I'm doing that, I'm already in motion and I'm running away. I'm like, goodness gracious, can I just not meet these kinds of people again? Because it's painful. And guess what? I also got confirmation from about two different scenarios where people were saying, yes, it's actually true that guys are not quick to, go into relationships with moms who have, you know, the once married, have children history. But oh well, that's all fine and good for them. Yeah. Unfortunately, it seems like they're a higher number than those who don't really care about that and would take you in with open arms and eyes and all of that. But yeah, this is another one thing that happened to me this week that sort of like put a dampener on my usually cheery spirit. But guess what? I did this podcast like this today to let you know that as much as I like to wear the brand Supermom and Superhuman, yeah, there are days like this. Do I have tips for how to get through these days? I've given a couple on a few episodes before this one, but that was more like a general type of mindset thing, just make sure that you're not down in the dumps all the time. But in spite of those tips, there will be days like this. So again, I ask, do I have the tips for how to get through these days? So I'm going to tell you what I did, and then you see what works for you. Because there's no hard and fast rule about dealing with days like this. First off is the scenario with my son and how I had to deal with that. Trust me, it got to me, but I just tried to make sure that I gave him his space for a while. I wasn't keeping malice, I promise. I was the grown up in that situation. But yeah, but I did give him his space and let him just go through the motions. But I tried to make sure that I did not let that anger fester. And it's not just in dealing with me. Sometimes it's dealing with my mom because she can be a handful, his grandma. Sometimes it's in his relationship with her and his relationship with other people in the house. I just try to make sure that he can get angry, but then he doesn't lose it. He doesn't lose himself in the anger. So, which is why I gave him his space and then found the time to like talk to him later. And in talking to him and making him see reason with why I did some of the things I did, I felt better. So this is me speaking as a mom to a child. Find that thing that brings you guys both together. So I started my conversation. And I sort of cheated with this one. I started the conversation on why I did what I did with. So are you happy now that we went like a whole day without talking and you couldn't talk to me about stuff that you really wanted to talk to me about, and now you have to catch up like the day after? So I went with that line. See what I did there? See that? I sort of guilt tripped him. That's the word. Yes, I did that. But then that was just the opener, and then we got to really really talk. And in talking to him, I felt better. So yeah, I was able to redeem both ourselves on that account. And then as for the whole relationship situation, and just not finding that person, even if it's not like seriously, I mean, I wasn't thinking marriage. I don't think marriage when I meet someone like first off. That would be nice for that to be the goal eventually, but I have learned to sort of keep my expectations not so high at the very beginning. There's nothing more important than just having a really good friendship and a really good companionship. And for me, sometimes, to be honest, I'm like, can I just have that one person that I can talk to about everything, even though we're not um, heading for the altar, but I want that companionship with someone sometimes. And I have amazing female friends that I'm able to do that with. Hey, Patrick, this is for you. Based on our conversation about, female to female. So, yes, I have amazing female friends who I get to talk some of the time about. But yeah, sometimes I want to be able to talk to someone who is going to probably hug me at the end of the day and probably give me a box of chocolates or say something else that is quite not so platonic that will make me feel like I tried and I did a good job and you're gonna be fine at the end of the day. You guys just gonna have to forgive me, but again, random me things like I said. So These are some of the emotions that I go through on days like this. You understand what I'm saying? So, in essence, it'd be nice. It'd be nice to have that person. And, we keep trying. We keep putting ourselves out there, not needlessly, but you never find anybody by sitting down in your house. So you put yourself out there on a couple of occasions, hang out, have fun, and just see where it takes you. And I promise it's going to work out. It may take a while, like it has taken with me. Yeah, but it's definitely going to work out. So at the end of the day, all I'm saying is that there are days like this, and when these days come, let it just let it just go. Don't let it sit with you for too long. Like I said, like with my kids, don't let the feelings fester and they just keep developing and developing. And the next thing you wake up, the next thing you're feeling like, oh, goodness, why bother? Don't let it fester. I heard of a very unfortunate story today of a friend who has been trying to get into a relationship with, and the minute the guys hear that she has um, kids, or she was once married and all of that, they literally run for the hills. I'm not joking. Like, it might be different with other people, but then there are people who are getting this wrecking ball thrown at them on a daily. Guys are literally taking off to the point that she felt like she needed to hide that from the person who was taking an interest in her. And someone had to say, look, if this person is going to like you, they're going to like you with all of who you are and what comes with you. So open up, tell the person if they're fine with it, fine. If they're not fine with it, let them go. And it hurts when they always let you go when they hear that. So I can understand why she wants to hide that for a bit. But at the end of the day, it's always best to let it out. And she left it out, and guess what? She hasn't heard from the guy since. So there are people who are really, really getting, you know, the short end of the stick almost all the time. Guess what? If you're listening to this podcast, keep at it. Just keep at it. Maybe take your focus off having a relationship and try doing something else. Okay? I find that that works for me. Does it work sometimes? Yes. Does it work all the time? No. So I find that I have to do like a couple of things, multiple things, one of which is talking to you guys here and just letting it all out. And it helps. I've talked about taking trips. I've talked about taking time away from yourself and all the regular things that go on in your head and just doing something different. Try it. Try it. You never know. It just might work. For me, I try to find peace in the little things. Try not to focus on the big things. So if I have like a repeat scenario like I had during the week about, a couple of people that I get to hang out with and it turns out they're all married, yeah, I'll take a break from hanging out for a bit. Maybe just start looking for places where I can just go and play games or have a good dance and leave and not necessarily be there to meet people, because you will go through that funky phase where you're like, yeah, it's totally not worth it. But then just redirect your focus somewhere else, and what is due to you will come to you. As the good book says, in its appointed time, it will come to you. The lines will fall to you in pleasant places. That is what I'm going to leave you with as I round up the podcast today. Again, sometimes we're going to be having this very vulnerable moments. I'm not even going to be trying to say, look, be perfect, be this, be that, because there are days like this. So just let it happen. And then when it's done, try and switch your focus and see where that takes you. Try and find peace in the little things and see where that takes you. If you have your children, try and find peace in them just being around you, even though they're driving you crazy. Just find peace in that. If you don't have your children with you, find peace in doing other things. Find someone that you can talk to. My God, it will be nice if it's not platonic, but if it's just platonic for now, yeah, run with that. As long as you trust them with your vulnerability, do that and go to sleep, and you wake up the next day and you will be just fine. Remember, crooked sticks draw straight lines too. Thank you so much for listening to Decoupled with Cheryl today. Remember, you can always send us your stories at chercasts@gmail.com. That's sharecast@gmail.com, one word. You can also follow us on all our social media platforms at Decoupled with Cheryl. We can't wait to hear from you. Send us questions, feedback, comments, anything, and we'll do our best to put them out on the podcast as soon as possible. Thank you so much. Again, I'll see you guys next week.